49 is asking which of the following must be rational. Well, if I take my two values and divide them, I would have 3 plus radical 2 over 3 minus radical 2, which would be not considered rational. I then would take a times b, so 3 plus radical 2 times 3 minus radical 2, and by foiling or double distributing, the radicals would go away and it'd be left with just an integer value. And then finally for part 3, a plus b, when I add the two values, you'll notice that the radicals cancel since they're opposites, and I just have 3 plus 3, which is 6. So that gives me an integer value which is also rational. So parts 2 and 3 are correct, which would be letter E. Looking at problem 50, you're comparing the graph of the cosine of theta to this new graph for cosine 2 theta. The 4 out in front, that's what changes the amplitude, and a 4 will make it bigger, so that would be 4 times the amplitude. Then the 2 in front of the theta will change the period, and typically a period is 2 pi divided by b, where in this case the b is 2. So in other words, we are dividing by 2 or taking half of the period, letter G. Now let's take a look at problem 51. There are many parts to this problem. One of the first things is noticing that this is an equilateral triangle, thus the base angles and the vertex angle, all of them are 60 degrees. So angle D, angle C, and angle E are all 60 degrees. That's going to help us then to show that the angles up here are also 60 degrees. So that angle right there, that angle right there are also 60, based on those lines being parallel. So how is that going to help us? Well, knowing that those sides and angles are all equal, I can then label each of these sides as being equal. So x, x, and x are all the same value. So the first triangle that I'm going to look at is this triangle right here. If we label that bottom side as x, based on the 30, 60, 90 right triangle, the side opposite the 60 is going to be x radical 3, and the side opposite the 90 is going to be 2x. I then label those sides as so, and take a look at the relationship between each of those sides. The next triangle that I would look at is the bigger right triangle over here, which would be this right triangle. Well, using that information that we already know that this side is 2x and this side is x, I now have a side that has a length of 3x. Well, I have another 30, 60, 90 right triangle, then I can label my AE side as 1.5x and my AD side as 1.5 square root of 3x. Now I have the measurements that I need to come up with that ratio. So based on those measurements, I have a length of x radical 3 for FD and 1.5x radical 3 for the entire length AD. And simplifying it, I would have 1 over 3 over 2, which would then become 2/3 letter E. For problem 52, we have a regular pentagon, which says that all sides are congruent and all interior angles are congruent. To calculate the sum of any pentagon or any regular polygon, I simply take the number of sides minus 2 and times it by 180. So 5 minus 2 times 180 would give me a value of 540. I then divide it by 5 because each of the interior angles are equal. Therefore, 540 divided by 5 is 108.